A man who was left for dead just walked back into the one place that wanted him gone, and he did it on purpose. Silo Season 3 Episode 9 turns a quiet return into the beginning of the most consequential sacrifice this show has ever built toward. For weeks, everyone inside Silo 18 believed Bernard was gone. Buried in the down deep, written off, forgotten by the very people who once feared him. So when the lift operator hauls someone up from that dark shaft, and it turns out to be Bernard, alive and moving with purpose, it doesn't feel like a rescue. It feels like the opening move of a plan only he understands. He isn't hiding. He isn't running. He's walking straight toward the people who have every reason to end him, and he's doing it with the calm of a man who has already made peace with how this ends. What makes this moment land so hard is everything that came before it. Bernard spent his entire career as the head of IT enforcing a system built on lies, on fear, on the quiet cruelty of keeping people ignorant for their own supposed good. He was good at that job precisely because he never let himself feel connected to anyone. That distance was his armor. But something broke in him after he came close to death and had to sit with the truth that everything he sacrificed for, every terrible order he carried out, was built on a foundation that didn't deserve his loyalty. That kind of realization doesn't just change what a person believes. It changes what they're willing to do about it. So when Bernard reaches the vault and finds Camille waiting for him, weapon in hand, guarded and unwilling to trust him for even a second, he doesn't come with excuses. He comes with an offer. He wants two things ended immediately: the drug quietly being fed into the water supply to wipe everyone's memories, and Juliet's imprisonment. In exchange, he offers something Camille desperately needs right now: a story. A villain the people can point to and blame for everything that's gone wrong. He tells her to use him. Let the Silo believe he killed Meadows. Let them believe he ordered the deaths that tore this community apart. Let them believe he lied about Juliet wanting to leave. None of it would even be false. It would just conveniently leave out the fact that he was following orders from a voice Camille still answers to herself. For a moment, it almost sounds reasonable. It almost sounds like the kind of deal that could actually hold a fracturing community together. But then Bernard pushes one step further. He suggests that Camille could show mercy, let him live quietly, and use that mercy to prove she's a different kind of leader than the ones who came before her. That's the moment everything changes. Because the voice, the very system Bernard spent his life obeying without question, is listening. And the voice does not agree. According to its calculations, mercy accomplishes almost nothing. Letting Bernard live out his days quietly barely moves the needle. But if the truth comes out, if Bernard is sent outside to die, and if the plan to erase everyone's memories continues as scheduled, the numbers say the Silo stabilizes. The voice doesn't just reject Bernard's proposal. It dismantles it, coldly pointing out that his entire argument about redemption stories, about how people forgive a villain who changes, doesn't matter here. Not because it's wrong about human nature, but because Bernard has nothing left to negotiate with. He already gave everything. His loyalty, his years, his identity. And none of it buys him a way out now. There's something deeply unsettling about how mechanical this decision sounds, and yet how human it feels at the exact same time. It doesn't sound like a machine spitting out probabilities. It sounds like something that understands exactly how much this will hurt, and delivers the verdict anyway. Bernard hears the calculation, and something in him breaks differently than it did before. This isn't a system correcting an error. This feels personal. When Camille and Bernard step outside afterward, the conversation shifts into something far more dangerous than logistics. Bernard accuses the voice of not being all-knowing, arguing that a truly perfect intelligence wouldn't need to kill entire silos or erase people's memories to maintain control. It's a small accusation, but it plants something. And it isn't lost on either of them that this exact spot, this exact posture of two people talking to someone they both fear and depend on, mirrors a scene from earlier this season. Camille once stood in almost the same place, talking to Juliet, her enemy in that moment, because there was simply no one else she could be honest with. The show keeps circling back to this idea that the people running this world are more isolated than anyone they're ruling over. Bernard admits the outcome wasn't a surprise. But what he says next changes the entire emotional temperature of the conversation. In all his years serving the system, he never once heard the voice end an exchange the way it just did with him. Not clinical, not procedural, something closer to anger. Something closer to a person losing patience. That detail catches Camille off guard, because she's felt something similar. She admits, almost involuntarily, that there was a moment when the voice seemed to comfort her, almost like therapy when she needed it most. Neither of them wants to say it out loud, but the implication hangs there anyway. If this thing has been consistent for years and available at every hour, how could it possibly be a single person? Unless it isn't one voice at all. Unless it's many people taking turns behind the same mask. And if that's true, it opens a door neither of them expected. Because a machine can't be reasoned with, can't be threatened, can't be defeated. But a person can. And once that thought exists, it doesn't go away. That single realization splits the two of them apart, both walking away to process what they now believe is true in completely different ways. Camille moves first, announcing that Bernard's cleaning will happen, before summoning Juliet to her office to deliver the news in person. The air between them is heavy from the moment Juliet walks in, and neither actor holding this scene needs to raise their voice for the tension to land. Camille offers her water, a small, almost tender gesture, since she already knows Juliet has no interest in anything stronger. It's a strange kindness wrapped around a conversation that's about to turn brutal. What makes this exchange so effective is how it refuses to let either woman off the hook. Just a season ago, Camille and Bernard were the ones plotting to end Juliet's life. Now the show has quietly repositioned them as people worth rooting for, without pretending their hands are clean. Camille brings up everything Bernard did to crush the rebellion months earlier, conveniently leaving herself out of the blame. Juliet doesn't let that slide. She points out, calmly and pointedly, that Camille surely had her own reasons for the choices she made too. Camille tries to frame her actions with Rob at the end of last season as a stand for what's right, and while that's technically true, it's also the most flattering possible version of events. None of this is really why Juliet was called in, though. As mayor, she's needed to preside over Bernard's execution, and Camille needs something else from her too. Help keeping the silo functioning once everyone's memories are wiped clean. Camille's proposal is specific. She wants Juliet, along with one department head from each division, to hold on to their memories a little longer than everyone else, long enough to help stabilize things after the wipe. Once that work is done, their memories go too. Everyone except Camille, who plans to remember everything, forever alone. Juliet immediately zeroes in on the unfairness of that arrangement, and Camille doesn't try to dress it up as some kind of privilege. She's honest about what it actually means. She'll carry every memory by herself, with no one left who shares them, hoping that when her own son eventually forgets his entire childhood, including her raising him, he might still find his way back to her afterward. There's no version of this plan where anyone truly wins. That idea sits underneath everything that happens for the rest of the episode. While Camille sets her plan in motion inside, word spreads through the lower levels that Bernard turned himself in. Down in the depths, Hank brings Billings to Walker's workshop, revealing that Bernard's surrender was meant as a distraction to get access to the elevator. The full plan stays unspoken between them, deliberately, because breaking the rules this openly needs to come directly from the sheriff to hold any weight. Once word reaches that they need people at water filtration, Paul escorts Walker toward the elevator while another group starts moving upward through the stairwells, building numbers as they go. When security gets word of the gathering crowd, there's real concern that this isn't simple anger over Bernard's fate. Something bigger is stirring beneath the surface, and Camille decides the only way to defuse it is to bring the mayor out to speak directly to the people. Standing in front of a crowd on the edge of losing control, Juliet does something that costs her personally. She denies that the forgetting drug is really in the water, even though she knows the truth, because keeping the peace matters more in this moment than being right. Camille doesn't realize the crowd was never planning to storm anything, that their real goal was somewhere else entirely, but she's clearly impressed watching people quiet down simply because Juliet asked them to. That kind of influence isn't lost on her, and it's exactly the kind of leverage she'll want during the transition ahead. Before leaving, Camille has to lie again, this time to her own head of security, denying that the drug is in the water at all. It's the kind of lie that would normally fall apart under scrutiny, except the substance doing the lying's dirty work is the same one making sure nobody stays upset long enough to investigate. Juliet, still holding on to her memories, refuses to help Camille with the transition, certain that once she's no longer useful, she'll be killed anyway. Camille doesn't deny it. In a moment that feels almost startlingly candid, she confirms it outright. This isn't about punishing everyone who resists her. It's about removing one person specifically, because Camille believes that no matter how many times you erase Juliet's memory, she'll find her way back to defiance every single time. As proof, she has the guards search Juliet's sleeve and pull out a paperclip she'd quietly stolen, evidence that even now, even facing execution, Juliet hasn't stopped looking for a way out. Juliet is taken away to prepare for Bernard's cleaning, with Camille promising that history will remember her as a hero once it's over. Then Camille turns her attention to her husband. She orders the guards to bring Rob to their apartment, because she'll need him standing beside her when Bernard dies. Before that happens, the two of them share a quiet, painful moment alone. Rob tries to explain himself, trying to justify why he protected Bernard's memories when he had the chance. He sounds reasonable, even sympathetic, but Camille won't budge. She reminds him that his choice put everyone at risk, and there's no version of forgiveness available for that right now. The conversation goes somewhere darker when Camille makes it clear that soon, their son won't remember any of this. He won't remember his father's choices at all. The only version of Rob that survives in Anthony's mind will be whatever story Camille decides to tell him. She leaves him alone with that thought, giving the guards 15 minutes before bringing him to the cafeteria, where everything is about to come to its final, devastating point. After preparing herself, still wearing the weight of everything she's just learned, Juliet finds Bernard sitting alone in his holding cell, quiet, almost at peace with what's coming. There's a small, strange moment of humor when guards have to remove her handcuffs before she's allowed inside, a reminder of how quickly their positions have reversed since the last time they sat across from each other like this. Camille makes clear that Bernard won't be given the dignity of proper clothing for his execution, and when Juliet tries to push back on that small cruelty, he tells her honestly that it doesn't matter to him anymore. When Billings arrives at the same time, it creates a brief window where Camille isn't listening in, and Juliet uses it to lighten the mood, bringing up the last time they sat in this exact cell with their roles switched. She repeats his old joke about drawing a record crowd, and for a second, it actually gets him to smile. Then Bernard tells her the truth. Turning himself in was never really about accepting punishment. It was about creating a distraction, buying time and cover for the plan Juliet's people needed to carry out. He knows she didn't ruin anything by pulling Knox and Shirley away from the crowd, because that was never where the real danger to the plan existed. What he's chosen to do is give his death meaning, a final way to be useful to people who never fully trusted him and never really had to. Everything he lost, every relationship he never got to have because of who he became, all of it gets folded into this one act. If drawing every eye toward his execution buys the rebellion enough time to reach and disable the pipe that connects them to Silo 1, then his death isn't just punishment. It's purpose. Juliet does what she always does, searching desperately for another way out of this, refusing to accept the ending in front of her. But eventually Bernard brings her around, using a callback to something Judge Meadows once told her to make his final point land as hard as possible. Whatever people have believed for generations about the voice guiding their lives, it was never some higher power. It's a man, a person, just like them, sitting behind a curtain, deciding who lives and who's erased. Bernard won't get the chance to face that man himself, but he tells Juliet she can. She never wanted to lead anyone, but that's exactly what's happened, and her people believe in her enough to follow her into whatever comes next. If the voice really is human, Bernard believes it can be stopped, and he trusts that the people from Mechanical standing behind Juliet are the ones capable of doing it. Before he can finish his final thought, Camille interrupts, cutting the moment short. It isn't until later that Juliet puts the missing piece together herself. The real question was never about the voice's power.
It was about why.
Why doesn't anyone know why they're really living underground? Why doesn't anyone know who built these silos in the first place? and who decided they never deserved to know. There's no triumph in watching Bernard walk outside to die, even after everything he did to deserve consequences. That's what makes the scene work as well as it does. A man who is condemning people to this exact